morning, night, depending on what part of the world you're in. Welcome to the Riggin Farm YouTube channel. My name is Nick. My wife Ashley and I own Riggin Farm here in Talking Rock, Georgia. The point of this live stream is to kind of do a quick update on things that have been going on. We always have such going on here at the farm. It's never a dull moment. Let's see. That's one of the newest things going on. We have a slab poured for a new building that's going in here on the farm. This is a 30 by 40 foot slab, and you can probably see we have some pipe going right there and back there. And this is going to be our produce wash and pack building, also our cold storage building. We'll be able to walk from the garden to this building and wash our produce, pack our produce, and then store the produce in a walk-in refrigerator. We're also going to have all of our chest freezers in here to store our meat. So pipes here, we have a drain pipe, and then we have a water inlet pipe. Got a new well drilled a couple weeks ago. The drain pipe right here goes all the way down there where we're going to have a bathroom. So we'll have a hand sink and a toilet in the bathroom. Just contacted a gentleman today about getting a septic installed so that we can have a place for all of that water to go. Let's see, I'm going to go into the garden. Been doing a lot of work in here recently. It's been really hot, so it hasn't been a lot of fun. Finally got some beds weeded. A bunch of our determinate tomatoes got planted this week. So we're doing some Roma tomatoes, some black tomatoes. We also have some tomatillos over there. Lettuce beds that we've been harvesting off of. So we harvested a bunch of lettuce out of here this morning. Already got it washed and packaged in the fridge, waiting to sell at the Bridge Mill Farmers Market. So let's see, we got somebody here. Yeah, thanks. Let's see, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Sorry about that. Got really bad vision, so I can barely see my face, even with my glasses on, let alone read the text without looking at it like an old man. So apologize about that. But yeah, so all of this lettuce here, it's 4 different varieties of lettuce. They're actually trademarked Salanova, which is a seed that is patented, that is only sold by Johnny's Selected Seed. It is the most expensive lettuce seed on the market, and there's a good reason for it, because it's like 95 degrees, and this lettuce hasn't bolted yet. Some of it's trying to, but it hasn't. This is just super flavorful, bolt-resistant lettuce. We have 4 different varieties. We have a, let's see, yeah, so it's functioning. We do need to, when the sun starts to set tonight, we're going to come out and harvest some more stuff for the farmers market tomorrow. We'll give it a little bit of a misting, just to try to help keep it cool. The 4 varieties we have are Green Crisp, which I'm going to go ahead and flip the camera around so I can show you the different varieties. So let's see here. We got Green Crisp right here. So it's a nice frilly, crispy lettuce. We have Green Oak Leaf, Red Tango, which is red right here. Down closer, it's actually green. And then some Red Butter, which is right here. So we've got red leaves, and then it's green down in the center. So we've got 2 different colors, 2 different textures, 4 different flavors. So some really good stuff. One of the things we do to help keep our pest damage to a minimum is interplanting some onions. So these are deep purple. They're a scallion, but they're a purple scallion rather than a green scallion, like standard green onions you're used to seeing. So these actually taste more like a red onion, despite being scallions. We had some white Creole that didn't do so well. And then we also have a bunch of shallots. And the shallots seem to be doing relatively well. So you can see some of the harvest. So a lot of this lettuce is cut and come again. So let me see if I can find some that I cut last week. Yeah. So here's some that we cut last week. And you can see we left some of these outer leaves on just to help with some photosynthesis, but all this new growth right here is coming in looking beautiful. So in another few weeks, we'll be able to harvest that. But we planted like 400 heads of lettuce in this bed. And yeah, so we're just kind of cutting it as we need it for the farmers markets. We cut, let's see, we cut and bagged, I think like 14 bags for the Wednesday market last week. Brought quite a bit home from the market. We did 20 and sold out on Saturday. And then we just bagged up another 18 for the market tomorrow, so we'll see how that goes. Let's see. Doomboy says, I never saw YouTube lives about farming stuff, but gotta say it's quite good. Also, these look real healthy. I bet it was grown correctly and not overdosed with stuff. You're absolutely right. So we just do compost and sometimes a little bit of, actually we did water this when we first transplanted it with a little bit of fish emulsion and some kelp meal. So both 100% organic. Yeah, and that's it. Water, sunshine, good soil. This bed here, we have, let's see, I'll flip the camera around, make it a little bit easier. So we've got some head lettuce here. So we have some romaine. And then we actually have some more of that same salad mix at the very end there. And then we have some cucumbers. So this is called unagi. It's a Japanese style cucumber. So they're just starting to grow right now. So they're kind of like an English cucumber, except they're Japanese. They're like a low bitter variety. They're pretty tasty. And then these guys right here are pole beans, so green beans. So we've got some of them down here. They're getting pretty tall. Some of them are over 6 feet tall already. And all of these little buds here will turn into green beans. And as you can see, they're kind of going along this trellis here. So the thing that is one of my favorites, not sure how well you're gonna be able to hear me when I go into the high tunnel because we have fans going, because it gets pretty warm in there without the fans running. We have all of our tomatoes and peppers in here. So we've got sun golds. We harvested some sun golds this morning, and we're gonna come back in here a little bit later tonight and harvest some more. We've got tons of mini bell peppers growing. So we've got varieties that are red and yellow, and then we've got some standard size bells that are gonna be orange and red. But yeah, see, we've got a couple more ripe sun golds ready to go for the farmer's market tomorrow. And these plants, some of these sun golds, let's say that one is probably about 9 feet tall, maybe even, yeah, probably about 9. These are like 9 to 10 feet tall right now. So we do the clipper system for trellising. So we have these little clips here that have, let me see if I can do it one-handed while holding the camera. All right, so it's this little hinged foamy thing here, and you basically clip it. Let me switch hands here. So you pinches around the vine, and then you clip it to this little wire hanging down like that. So basically, oh, there's a sucker we need to pull off. So anytime you have a set of leaves coming in between the main leading vine and a branch, it's called a sucker, and we don't want those. Now sometimes they're good to have, but what we're doing is a single leader system. So basically what we're trying to do is have just from the ground all the way up a single vine that produces fruit. And as it grows taller, like right now it's about 7.5 feet in the air. But as you can see, we've already kind of lowered it and leaned it. So I'll unclip this bottom one and then slide the top one down, reattach it lower, and then move this clip to a higher point further down this metal hanger. So basically what we're doing is just having these vines be lowered and then lean. So by the end of the season, like October, November, it's going to be like probably 20 to 30 feet tall. Let's see. Doomboy asks, also, are these naturally grew or had any modifications or dose of stuff for faster growth? Okay, so that's a great question. So when we, once we finished building this high tunnel, we created the garden beds. So we started with a layer of chicken litter. So that's when we have a chicken coop. And even though they don't really go into it very often, maybe a third of them actually go into the chicken coop at night to sleep. But we put pine shavings in there, and then they go to the bathroom on it. And it sits there and it composts. And so basically we scooped a bunch of that out of the garden, or out of the coop, right into the garden, and laid that down as a foundation for all of our garden beds. Then we topped that with topsoil. Some of it came from some old raised beds that we moved from. We had to move in order to put these high tunnels in place. And some of the topsoil was actually on our property. We just dug it up and brought it in here in a wheelbarrow. So once we got the beds in place, we also mulched in between. So our walkways have mulch. So it's just wood chips, so that we can kind of cut back on the weeds that are growing. Still have some weeds growing in with the tomatoes, so we need to come in here and reweed that. So anyway, once we created the garden beds, we laid down our drip irrigation, which just so happens to have water emitters spaced exactly 18 inches apart. So we staggered them, and we put two in each bed. And then I took an auger, like an auger bit for my drill, and I drilled holes into the garden bed, about, I don't know, 8 to 10 inches deep. And then we did amend those holes before we planted the tomatoes. We put in some worm castings, some vermicompost. We have worms that we feed some scraps, and then they eat them and they turn it into compost. So we put some of that in there. We also put some bone meal in there, which is extremely high in phosphorus. So phosphorus, so when you look at your fertilizer, there are three numbers usually with fertilizer. It's NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So the phosphorus, the second number in your numbers that you're looking at on your fertilizer, is going to help with blooms and fruit. So if you're trying to grow flowers or fruit, you need to make sure that any fertilizer you add, which hopefully is organic, that's going to be really high in phosphorus. So bone meal, like literally, it's just bones that are dried and ground up, and we sprinkled that into the holes. We also put some calcium in there, a natural calcium, just to help with blossom end rot. Sometimes if you have a calcium deficiency in your soil, when you start growing the tomatoes, the blossom end will start to rot, and your fruit will go bad, and it's not good. So yeah, so it gets really hot in here. Even with these fans, we have a huge exhaust fan right there. We have two fans on either side of the entrance. And then we also have two circulating fans right there. We probably need to add a couple more fans just to help move the air a little bit more, because it's really hot in here. So yeah, anyway, so we run the irrigation usually for about 2-3 hours at a time, a couple times a week, 2 to 3 times. We actually ran it yesterday for a few hours, and then the soil is already kind of dry, so we decided to run it for another couple hours today. Sorry, there's a Japanese beetle that was in here, so I grabbed it and crushed it because he will want to eat all of our plants. That's not cool. Let's see. I'm going to show you some of the other tomatoes we're growing here in our tunnel. So this is an Amish paste tomato. So these obviously are not ripe yet, so they're still on the vine. We're waiting for them to finish ripening before we pick them. So kind of like Roma tomatoes. Roma tomatoes are a determinate tomato, and that means that they will grow to a kind of predetermined height, and then they'll also produce a kind of predetermined number of fruit. And once they are done fruiting, then they're done for the season. The Amish paste is an indeterminate, so just actually all the tomatoes we're growing in this tunnel are indeterminate tomatoes. So what that means is they will continue to grow and grow and grow until it gets too cold and they die. So the Amish paste is an heirloom tomato. And see, these are a little bit on the small. So we've got some bigger ones down here. Like that's a pretty good size tomato right there. It's about the size of an apple. Maybe just but not quite as girthy as an apple, but pretty close. That's probably about I don't know, like a 10-ounce fruit right there. So these typically get about 8 to 12 ounces per tomato. See, yeah. Come a little bit further down here. We've got these pink Belgium tomatoes. Let me find some good pink Belgiums here. They're not ripe either, so they haven't turned pink yet. Still green. These allegedly can get 1 to 2 pounds. We don't have any that look quite that big, but none of them are ripe, so that means they're still growing. We also have Cherokee purple tomatoes. Again, not ripe, but look at the size of that tomato right there. That is probably a 1-pound tomato. That is going to be a tasty boy. Let's see, got a bunch of these Cherokee purples growing on these plants. Some of them a little bit smaller than others. That's okay. Here's another good sized pink Belgium. Let's see. That's bigger than an apple. That is a huge tomato. Like that one's probably already close to a pound right there. Let's see. This side over here, we have Dr. Wykes. These are a yellow tomato. Again, not ripe, but when they do ripen, they'll be yellow. So they're a really delicious heirloom tomato. Very low acidity, so that makes them pretty good for people who don't really like that sharp bite of a tomato. That some people don't like tomatoes, and it's because they're really acidic, and that's okay. That's why Dr. Wykes heirloom yellow tomatoes exist. Got a couple other varieties here. Oh, I skipped right past the blush. These are a pretty tasty tomato. These are one of my favorites that we grew last year, but we had a lot of issues with them splitting when we'd get periods of drought and then really hard rains. But now that we're in the tunnel, we don't have to worry about that. So these will turn into like an orangish color with some red blushing on them, and they're super flavorful tomato. They're about 3 inches long and 1 inch in diameter. It's about as big as they get. So these will probably start ripening pretty soon. The other variety we have in here, these are called, let's see, where is it? This one here, this is called a brown sugar. I haven't tried that one before. It's a new variety we're growing this year. We're just growing, like pretty much the rest in this row are all kind of like experimental tomatoes, just to try something we haven't done before and see what we think. This is called a pineapple. I'm not sure how big they're going to get. They're supposed to get a little bit bigger than that. What do we have down here? This is a Woods Famous Brimmer. These are supposed to be a really nice red tomato that pretty uniform in shape, nice round. Sometimes people don't like the heirloom tomatoes because they have an irregular shape and they think that there's something wrong with them. That's just how they are. Don't shame them. Let's see. And then this variety of tomato we actually got from a vendor at the farmer's market a few years ago. They called it Susan because they got it from somebody named Susan a couple generations ago, and they've been growing it ever since. And they don't really know what kind of tomato it is. It grows into like a really nice heirloom variety. So we'll see how they look this year. See if it's something we continue to seed save. So that right there, if you can see it, is dill. So we're growing some dill and some green onions with the tomatoes. Let's see, should have some. We have lots of these tangerine gem marigolds. These are actually an edible marigold. They're really fragrant. I love the way these smell. And we also have some Italian basil growing here. So we'll probably harvest some of this for the farmer's market tomorrow. Over here, we've got our jalapenos. As you can see, we've got quite a few of those growing on the plants. And in the peppers, we are growing some cilantro. So if anybody's curious what this white stuff is, it's a little diatomaceous earth. We saw a few aphids on the plant, so we threw some diatomaceous earth on there, which is a fossilized diatoms. They're like kind of like an algae, unicellular algae that is really dry, and basically anything with an exoskeleton, if it touches it, it starts to dry out and then it dies. It's an organic pesticide. Let's see, more jalapenos down here. Also some pretty good looking fruit. Down here are our habaneros. A lot of the peppers on this side of the tunnel aren't doing very well. Oh, we do in fact have a habanero growing. Several of them. I'm excited about that. We're not growing, I think we're only growing like 20 habanero plants, but it's pretty dense in here. And we have a couple Tabasco plants down there. Again, plants on the ends here not doing especially well. I think part of it's just the heat on this side. And this is the south-facing side of the high tunnel. And it's just a little bit hotter. We need to get some more fans for this side to help cool it down a little. And then I've got a bunch of weeds because, you know, what happens when you don't use herbicides? You get weeds. So right here, growing, we have a bunch of red onions, full-sized red onions, and weeds, lots of weeds growing in there. And on the other far side wall of the tunnel, we have some more weeds. But we have, you can see there, those are some sweet onions, some bulb onions. So there's only about 2 inches in diameter. They still have ways to go before they're ready to harvest. And then these flowers are called sweet alyssum. So they're really pretty. They're a good filler flower for bouquets, but they're also really good at attracting beneficial insects. They're good at bringing in pollinators, and they're also help deter a lot of pests. So a lot of the bugs that like to eat plants don't like the smell of the sweet alyssum. So that's all the really exciting stuff in the garden. I'll show you something else that we've been working on. So we've got some of our hanging baskets. They've been getting a lot of sun. We need to probably water them. Okay, so here is our other high tunnel that we're building. So it's going to be pretty much exact same as the other one, except we're not going to have the trusses and the trellising system in here. We might add it next year, but for now we're just going to finish this up, and we can get some more determinants planted and lots of other summer veggies. And then we'll also be starting, well, by the time it's done, we might start working on our fall garden. I don't know. So we have all of the hoops up, the ground posts, the hoops, wind bracing. We've got our ridge pole and purlins up to add extra support. We have our baseboards installed. The next thing is going to be installing the hip boards, which look just like the baseboards, except they're right here on the sides. Once those are installed, then we'll be able to get started on our, we'll put in our, so this right here is a lock channel. Let's see. So this is what you use to secure your plastic. So we have this plastic on the ends here. I think this is also part of the reason that the peppers in the end aren't doing well, because we have this insect screen right here that allows fresh air to come into the garden, and bugs stay out for the most part. We have the doors open right now because it's so hot. But this right here is a wind panel, so it has two purposes. So if there are really strong winds, there's less of a chance of the wind getting in and like trying to lift the hoop house up and pull it out of the ground, because this wind panel kind of created a little bit of a break. But also in the wintertime, when we roll the sides down, the plastic will be up against plastic, so it won't allow as much of a draft to get in, so that the inside of the hoop house will stay warmer as a result. So yeah, get that installed. And we'll work on the end walls, which is going to be where the doors go. And then we're going to be doing another exhaust fan and shutter in this hoop house as well. Yeah, so the end walls, we have to put in these vertical holes and then some supporting poles to hold the fan in place, get the doors on there. Once that's done, then we'll be installing all of the lock channel to the end wall hoops and all the vertical poles and the doors. And then we'll be stretching plastic and using this wiggle wire to hold the plastic in place. And once that's done, then we can start building the beds in there and growing more food. Man, prepping this garden has been the most time consuming thing on the farm, to be completely honest, because we've been trying to build healthy soil, and the weeds and the grass are loving it. We put down a bunch of vinyl tarp. Those crates are what all the hoop house parts came in. But yeah, put down lots of vinyl just to kind of help suppress the weeds so that we don't have as much to contend with when we're actually ready to start building beds. Our first couple years here on the farm, we kind of dove head first and tried to do this massive garden, and it was just getting out of control. The weeds were insane and outgrew everything we put into the ground, and we had massive crop failure, and it really sucked. But we learned from that. Um, so we're just kind of taking it one step at a time. Right here we have a bunch of carrots. We have a raised bed here with a bunch of carrots. We've harvested a few of them to sell at the farmer's market. It's pretty dry. We're gonna water this tonight. Sun's starting to set a little bit, so it won't be too bad. So we've got, so this is right here. We've pulled a lot of garlic up that we planted 2 years ago. So all of this garlic in this bed, what's left of it anyway, it's almost ready to harvest. We're gonna be using that as our seed garlic. So to grow garlic, you take a bulb of garlic, you break off the cloves, and you plant the cloves in the ground, and you do that in the fall. You let it overwinter, and then in the spring it starts to grow up a little bit, and then usually June, July, it's ready to harvest. So we put a bunch of garlic in to harvest and sell this year. I'll flip the camera around and show you that. So this is getting to a place where it's almost ready to harvest. So we put a bunch of garlic all here up against along the fence. It's starting to fall over, meaning it's a good sign that it's almost ready to go. Let's see. Still have a few heads of cabbage from the spring that surprisingly haven't bolted. It's a nice looking head right there. It's just a little small, but we're not going to be selling that because there's just not enough. These are shallots. These are shallots we planted a couple years ago, and we're just letting them go to seed so we can harvest the seeds, because shallot seeds are some of the most expensive seeds. We do have a bunch of shallots we started from seed this year that we will be harvesting later and are planted in the lettuce. Let's see. Got this other garlic bed over here. Tons of garlic all in here that we need to harvest pretty soon. And then I'm going to show you what we do with the garlic once we're done harvesting it. We have another little 10 by 20, they call it a greenhouse. This is like one that we bought at Northern Tool a couple years ago. And it's where we like to harden a lot of our stuff off. We start the seeds indoors, and then we put it on the back porch, start hardening it off, and then we put it in the hoop house where it gets some filtered sun, or not the hoop house, sorry, the greenhouse, where it gets filtered sun before moving it directly into the ground. So we're also curing our garlic in there right now. Let's see. Dean Boy's got to leave alive because it's like 1 in the morning at his place. So yeah, cool. Well, thanks for joining. I really appreciate you watching. Good night. All right. So the garlic we have here is curing. We have it just on this table that we made with hardware cloth. So we're basically just letting the garlic dry out, get nice and papery, and we'll, yeah, I mean, it's actually looking pretty good already. It's been in here for about a week. Usually it takes about 2 to 4 weeks to cure, so we'll give it another week just to be on the safe side. And then, yeah, all of that garlic will be going into our garden this fall. And we also ordered like, I think another 60 pounds of garlic or something like that to put in the ground this fall. We like garlic. Everybody likes garlic, right? Um, you put garlic in everything. So we need to make sure we sell it. And that's a really good thing about garlic is when it's cured properly, it stores for a really long time. It can store for about 6 to 9 months. Some varieties can store even for 12 months. So that means we can grow a lot of garlic, put it in storage, and then we'll have it to sell to you guys, or local customers anyway, any of you who are local, be able to sell it to you year round so that you don't have to get garlic from the grocery store that was grown in Mexico or China and fertilized with who knows what. Ours, just stick it into some healthy soil and let it do its thing. Let's see, we've got some chickens. Need to go collect some eggs here in just a little bit. We're actually getting another 50 chicks delivered this week. They sent us an email today saying that they shipped today. But yeah, we just got some healthy chickens walking through some grass, finding bugs, hanging out. We have about like 80 something layers right now. Not all of them are laying. Some of them are still about a month away from laying. Yeah, just healthy chickens. So there's their coop. The one I said that some of them go into at night, but most of them just jump up into the trees. They sleep on a branch. That's what they want to do. So we let them do it. No sense in fighting nature. You gotta work with it. So I'll walk down to the cows. I'll show you what's going on with them. They're not in the most ideal situation right now, but we're working on it, and that's what's important. We ended up getting another cow calf pair a little bit sooner than we wanted to, only because a friend of ours had some really good animals that we would want to get at some point anyway, and it was a really good deal. We really couldn't pass it up, and it was just, one of those situations where you can get really good quality animals right now and just have to supplement their feed a little bit more than you'd like to. But in the long run, we're saving money and getting a little bit closer to kind of our goal of, we want to have a total of 6 cows, one bull, and then a good rotation of steers and heifers that we grow out for beef. So we've been working on, thanks Droopy Dog. Droopy Dog says we have a nice setup. Appreciate that. So we have 2 paddocks right now for our cattle. We have an 1.5 acre paddock and an 8 acre paddock. We almost have 3 paddocks right now because we are using some electric poly wire to divide up this paddock, and I'll show you why in just a moment. But the smaller paddock, so these 2 guys, these are our smallest steers. They were getting through the poly wire and causing trouble getting out, and we didn't want them to do that for their own safety. We put them in here with the cows. For some of the cows, we have our dairy cow Maybell, who's a Belfair, and we have our newest cow Hannah, who's a Dexter. Her heifer calf, her name is Lumen. Let's see if we can find Lumen. She likes to lay over here in the hay. Where is Lumen? Let's see. So that's Hannah. That's Maybell. One of the horns is Rita. That's Harrison. That's Rita's bull calf. We need to castrate him still. That is Lumen. She is absolutely adorable. Aren't you, sweet girl? She is a sweetie. She was born in January. But she is just the sweetest little thing. but we're going to keep her separated from our bull until she's about 1.5 years old. And then we'll breed her and get some babies. Well, a baby. And then we'll start milking her once her baby's about 3 months old. Here are the rest of the cows. Got Deb, and her baby over there is Angel. Angel was born in March. That's Dokes. He's going to be our first full-blood Dexter going to the butcher next year, in late spring, early summer probably. That is our bull, Dexter. Dexter the Dexter. Behind him is Derby. He is Maybell's son. Maybell is a Belfair, so she's half Dexter, half Jersey, and then he is half Belfair and half Angus, or so we suspect. So he's got the kind of the dairy body type a little bit, but he's really big. He just turned 1 year old about a month ago. So he's only 13 months old, and he's probably pushing 1,000 pounds now. So yeah, this pasture that they're in, we also have some sheep back there and our donkey. There's 2 of the sheep back there, and then other sheep and donkey back there. So we have them in about a 2.5 acre paddock right now. It's kind of like a long strip, and there's not a lot of forage. They've eaten pretty much all the forage. Now, the reason that we have them separated is because we put down about 400 pounds of seed in the other 6 acres of pasture. And we've just been waiting for that to not just germinate, but really take off. So we've gotten some pretty good germination. We just broadcast seeded. We didn't drill the seed, so it's not going to be super even. But that's okay. We've got a variety of stuff in here. We've got some cowpeas, sorghum Sudan grass, sun hemp. We also put in some pearl millet and also some daikon radish and some turnips. Those will help break up the soil more than anything. They'll eat the greens, which will be good for them, but it won't get really tall. It's mostly just to break up the soil and add some good organic matter into the clay. So yeah, this was bare, like nothing growing. We seeded this 3.5 weeks ago. So, I mean, it's filled in a decent amount. You can kind of see the path I took with the broadcast spreader and some areas that I missed. So yeah, I'm actually gonna walk up the hill and show you the ridge and how that's looking. Let's see. So in here, this area they don't have access to. This is mostly fescue. And maybe a little bit of ryegrass that's kind of left over that probably won't survive the summer or won't do very well. It won't grow much. It doesn't like the heat. They're a spring and fall grass. So it's doing pretty well in the shaded area. And I drive the tractor up this area. So between erosion from the rain and drive tractor on it, doesn't get a lot of growth. We'll fix that at some point. But right now we're just trying to get some good, healthy pasture established for these animals. On the other side, we had put a bunch of fescue down, so they've eaten a lot of it down, unfortunately, but it was really tall and lush. But we did some forestry mulching on the 8-acre paddock and moved all the animals into this pasture for about 1.5 weeks while we were waiting for that to get done. So they just ate down a lot of stuff. Oh, there's a wild rabbit running around. Yeah, some more fescue, the remnants from the fall and spring. So let's go up here and see how it looks. Haven't been up here since Friday. Today's Tuesday, so it's been a little while. I like to come up a few times a week to check on the progress. Oh yeah, a lot of green. That is looking so much better. Oh, yeah, I put some hay here, so there's not much growing in the hay. A little bit's popped up. We also planted some sunflowers. Got to mention that earlier. Got a lot of stuff growing through. I accidentally spilled a bunch right here, so it didn't get spread very evenly. But it's nice and lush, that's for sure. Yeah, we have some wild blackberries, some ragweed, and some other things that aren't necessarily what we're wanting in our pasture. But it's okay because everything has a purpose. They'll eat all of that stuff. It may not be the most palatable, but it will still be something for them to eat, which is a good thing. And once we're probably going to wait another month. There's another wild rabbit. Yeah, so about another month or so, we'll let them have access to this area. And this should be nice and lush after another 30 days, assuming we get some decent rain to help water since we don't have irrigation. So all of this area right here was blackberries just a couple months ago. And looks like we still have some blackberries in there, but a lot of stuff we planted as well. So that's a good thing. But yeah. Growing healthy pasture takes some time. It's not something that's easy or cheap. Got some Japanese beetles that we're gonna try to kill because don't need those making their way to the garden and destroying everything. Luckily, they're really slow and easy to crush by hand. No need to spray pesticides when you can take care of things in a more natural way. Yeah, lots of good germination here. I think this here, if I'm not mistaken, is the sun hemp. And sun hemp is a legume, so it adds nitrogen. I think they said at the seeding rate we did, it can add 100 to 150 pounds of nitrogen per acre. And that's all organic. No chemical fertilizers needed to add nitrogen to your pasture. That's the thing. If you do things the right way, it's a little bit more money up front. In some instances, it's a lot more money up front. But once you've put in the effort and the money, the sweat equity, or even more money to pay somebody else to do the work for you, then your operating expenses become very, very low once established. So the next thing I need to do with this pasture, which depending on the weather, I might get done this coming Friday. Not sure how the schedule's looking. I've got a farmer's market tomorrow. Got some other stuff going on Thursday that may prevent me from working on it. Friday, I'm going to spread some liquid lime through the pasture. And we've only used powdered lime in the past. And the problem with powdered lime is you have to, well, first of all, it's really heavy. You have to use heavy equipment to move it efficiently. And I just spent a lot of time putting all that seed down. I don't want to be driving a tractor all over it and compacting the ground and damaging stuff. But also, it takes about 6 to 9 months for it to dissolve and actually get into the soil and start making a difference. Liquid lime, it's a concentrate that you dilute with water. So because of our pH, we have a pH of 5.1 according to the soil test that we sent in a few months ago. We have to do 5 gallons of liquid lime to 10 gallons of water per acre. So we bought a 55-gallon drum of that to be able to add lime to this whole pasture, and then still have some left over for applications in other areas, and also just for future to kind of help maintain the pH. So a lot of people hear about pH a lot when it comes to soil health, whether you're growing pasture or if you're just trying to grow some vegetables in the garden. So pH, the reason it's so important is because the proper pH unlocks nutrients for the plants. So when you have, you can put all the nitrogen, all the phosphorus, all the potassium, calcium, all the good stuff into the soil. But if your pH is too high or too low, then it gets locked up and the plants can't actually utilize it. And also, when your pH is too high or too low, a lot of the minerals in the soil actually become toxic. So sheep, for example, are very susceptible to copper toxicity. So if you have copper in your soil and your pH is too low or too high, the plants will actually absorb some more of that copper. And when the animals eat it, it will kill them. So that's obviously a problem, and it's one of the reasons we need to fix our pH. So as far as all the seed that we put out germinating, pH isn't really going to affect the germination so much, but once the roots really get established, it really needs that pH in the proper range. We're shooting for about a 6.5 pH, 6.5 to 7. So the grass and the legumes especially will really thrive. Legumes really like a 6.5 to 7 pH, whereas grasses are good with a 6 to 7. So the legumes like the sun hemp and the cowpeas that we put in already, and also we're going to be putting clover and alfalfa this fall, late summer, early fall. Those are those plants that bring nitrogen in from the air and put it into the soil, so that the grasses don't need to be fertilized. So his soil health is the foundation for a healthy farm, whether you're growing produce or raising animals for meat or dairy or eggs, because you want them to be able to eat off the land to help with reduce your costs, and also because ultimately it's healthier for them than anything you could buy at the feed store. But it's all about the ecosystem. So we want to create a good, healthy ecosystem. We have tons and tons of wild birds on our property. Any given time, if you listen, you can hear 8 to 12 different species just within a minute. I think we found about close to 30 different wild bird species on our property just in the last couple of weeks. And it's because we have a good ecosystem. We have healthy soil, we have trees, we we let the grass get tall, because that's where a lot of the grassland birds want their nests. So if you mow too low, they don't have a place, and a lot of these species are going extinct because they don't have a good place to live. Anyway, I could talk about that for hours and hours. I won't. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. Thank you so much for joining me on this late June 2025 farm tour full of updates, and hope to see you local guys at the farmers market. We're at the Bridge Mill Farmers Market in Canton, Georgia on Wednesdays from 9 to 1. We're at the Jasper Farmers Market in Jasper, Georgia on Saturdays from 7:30 to noon. Hope to see you there. If you aren't local, go to our website, www.rigginfarm.com. Learn a little bit more about what we do. Watch some of our videos. We haven't posted a lot of long format videos lately because it's, as you can see, we have a lot going on here at the farm. I just had a little bit of spare time to do this live today. That's why I decided to do it. But anyway, we will have more long format videos coming probably in the fall or winter when we have a little bit more free time. Maybe. I'm sure we'll have tons of projects. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.